quite often when I finish a bigger project, I look around, see if I have anything small I can do while my paintbrush still has a paint color on it. I hate washing paintbrushes, so I will always try to get a few projects out of one color before I have to wash it. So in this case, I've been using this Renfrew blue, which is just the most perfect teal. And I thought, oh, before I go wash out this brush, why don't I see what else I can do? In between projects, what I'll do is I'll wrap them in a little plastic baggie or some cling wrap, and that will keep them. Just make sure that when you go to wrap them, you have a fair bit of paint on the brush, and that'll keep them for a while. I've actually left them like that up to about a week, and they're still really good afterwards. So it's another way that I keep myself from having to wash my brushes all the time. So in this case, I had this old piece of wood laying around. It's about 12 by 12. It was cut down from a larger piece that we needed for a different project. So I grabbed that out of my little pile of wood chunks, and I'm going to make a little plaque with a hook in the middle. I've got some gorgeous brass dragonfly hooks right now. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to paint this teal, probably add maybe a bit of metallic gold on the edges, and I don't know, something else. We'll see how it goes. Stick around. I'll put these videos together and show you the end product. All right, I have a couple of coats of Renfrew blue on this piece of wood. Now I'm going to use some metallic gold. This is my favorite spray metallic gold. Fusion makes one that's very good as well. I actually do love this one the most. It dries really fast and it has got a mirror-like shine to it. It's beautiful. So I'm gonna spray the edges and then gonna see how that goes. Probably gonna let it come up over the top a little bit just to see how that looks. And here we are. So I took that Rust-Oleum metallic gold and I sprayed the edges here. You can see this is just an unfinished rough piece of plywood. So I was thinking about using my Wood You Bend trim to do the edges, but I wanted it a little more rustic still, so I decided to save that for another project. I have another piece of scrap wood just the same size, and I'll probably use the Wood You Bend on that one. This one I had a very particular idea in mind, so just sprayed these edges, and if you can see, as I sprayed the edges, it came up over the top just very lightly. Now, in some spots, there was more gold there than I wanted it. So what I did is I took my paintbrush that it had a little bit of paint left on it, but not very much. It was almost sort of a dry brush. And what I did is I just went through, you can actually see in some of these spots, I just took that dry brush and just pulled it along, just because there was a bit more gold on here than what I wanted. And now it's really subtle, the gold that's there. And I know if you know me, you're probably laughing when I say subtle, because subtle is not really, you know, what I'm aiming for most of the time when I do projects for myself. But this is going to be really pretty. All right, so this is painted now and it is dry. So what I want to do is see about the placement of my little dragonfly. Well, I shouldn't say it's little, it's quite large. It's beautiful. It's brass, it's very heavy. You can see it's got 2 screw holes that I can use to mount it to the board. So I need to just find where I want it at. And once I have that, then I'm going to use my Dremel with this little bit on it here just to start the holes, so it makes it easier for me to attach this. So I'm basically drilling little pilot holes in it. Makes it easier for me so I don't have to push as hard when I'm drilling, and it allows me to be a little bit more accurate. Now, I don't measure everything really clearly. My husband's very good at that. I'm using the official hand measurement here. And I like it. I like it there. Okay, and that looks pretty straight. So I'll just take my Dremel. I'm gonna hold this just so I don't knock it as I do it. And I don't need much of a hole, just a little bit. Just enough to make it so I can start the screws without having everything all over the place. And there we go, that's done, and I'll screw those in. All right, I have decided what screws I'm going to use. Sometimes I have brass screws hanging out, and I thought I did, but I went and looked for them, and I don't. So I'm going to use these little black screws that I have here. And then I do have some vintage gold paint from Fusion, a metallic that is actually sort of a similar color to this, and so I'll probably just touch up the tops of these so they don't stick out quite as much. Now, I have this currently up on on these guys here, these little stands. They're so handy. If you don't have these, get some. They're so helpful. When you've painted the back of something and you don't want to set it right down, you just pop it on these, and if it does leave a mark, then it's really easy to touch up. But I'm going to, it's pretty dry now, so I'm going to take them off because it's hard if you're trying to screw that on and it's a bit wobbly. Well, it's hard for me anyway. Maybe other people are more coordinated than I am. All right, so I've got my screwdriver with the correct bit on it. Line this up on the holes that I pre-drilled. Okay. And I'm going to do this one here in the body first, just because it's going to make it quite stable. So, because I pre-drilled those, it's nice and easy to go in. There we go. Nice and snug. All right, that looks fantastic. And we'll do this one. Now I chose screws with a fairly wide flange on the head. I'm not sure if that's the proper name that I'm using or not. Just because I wanted them to really sit. These are quite large holes that are in here, and I didn't want it to get sucked through. So that's really sturdy. Be able to hang anything you want off of there. My thought is it would be super cute by the front door as a leash holder if you have a dog, like I do. All right. Okay, that part's done. Now, I want to add a little something else. And so I went and looked. I have a little basket full of resin pieces. So when I go to make specific piece of resin, whatever I want, I generally mix too much resin. I shouldn't say generally. I always mix too much resin. So what I do is I'll just make extras while I've got my resin poured. And so I have a whole bag full, or a whole basket full of other things. So I had this little butterfly, or I keep calling it a butterfly. I had this little dragonfly in there. Super cute little guy. And so I just thought it would be so cute. I'm gonna pop him right down in the corner. But before I do that, I'm gonna paint him. And I just want to quickly paint him gold. So this is an old desk that I picked up as part of a huge lot of stuff that I had gotten. And I just use it as a work surface. It works fantastic for that. It's got this little pull-out tray, everything. So I'm just gonna try not to get any paint on here. I'll move this up a little bit, but this is just, again, that bare paint. And I'm just gonna spray it on. Okay, and then when that's dry, I'll pop a little bit of Gorilla Glue on the back of that. And I'll put it right there in the corner. When everything's dry, I'm going to put a mounting hook on the back and it'll be good to go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and touch up these little screw heads now. Apologize for my very messy workspace. One day I'll clean up before I do a video, but you know, I always say when people want to, when they come into the store, quite often people want to peek into the workshop for some reason, and so I never mind, that's totally good, but I just always have to warn people, it is very much a working space. I have a lot of projects on the go at the same time, so I usually kind of clean up once a week, and that's usually Saturday evening, so unless you come Tuesday morning, you are never going to see my workshop tidy. All right, so this is the metallic vintage gold from Fusion. Here it is. And so I've just got a tiny little bit here, and I just want to dab it in a little bit. And then I'm just going to dab that in. And then what I'm going to do to blend it is I'm just going to tap it in a little bit on other parts of this gorgeous dragonfly. And then I will come along with a little cloth and remove some of it. All right, let's grab a rag. I've always got rags sitting around. There we go. Okay, so I'm just gonna now dab this. Certainly do not want to cover up that beautiful brass. but I just want to make it all blend nicely there. So obviously you're never going to disguise those screws all the way, but that's okay. Things have to be attached somehow. All right, so that's looking really nice. Now, as I mentioned before, oh dear, good video, hey? My stand just fell over. There, sorry, hope that didn't make you dizzy. There we go. All right. Let's see, as I mentioned before, that the Rust-Oleum Metallic actually dries quite quickly, so I think probably I can go ahead and maneuver this now. And I just want to move this a little bit so you can see where I'm at. Yep, there we go. Okay, so yeah, this is already dry to the touch, and I just actually sprayed this a few minutes ago. So I'm just using my little super glue, Gorilla Glue, which I go through constantly here. I use it for so many things. Quite often have a little panic attack as I just about stick my finger to stuff. It happens at least once a day, but so far I've always managed to get free on time. So I just want this little beauty right here in the corner, looking up at the big dragonfly. Okay. So I don't need to clamp this or anything. It dries, the Gorilla Glue or Super Glue dries so fast. If you've ever used it, I'm sure you know. Sometimes that is a hindrance, but mostly it's a blessing. Here we go, that's on already. Okay. This is just looking so pretty. There we go. All right, I'm going to let this all set and dry now. I'm not going to rush it because I'm impatient. Again, anybody who knows me, especially if you happen to be, you know, my best friends or my family, are now laughing because I am very impatient when it comes to these things, but I'm going to try to let it dry so I don't wreck anything, and then I'm going to put the mounting hook on the back. All right, so I used my Dremel to drill a couple of pilot holes in the back of this so I can put some wire on for hanging. I did measure that this time because, you know, when we're hanging, we want to be a little more precise. I have this great screwdriver. I imagine it has an official name. My husband is a mechanic, so he just is always buying me tools that I need, and it's amazing. I just go to my toolbox and suddenly there it is. So I have osteoarthritis in my thumbs quite badly, and so I find it really hard to like pinch and turn with pressure. So this, I assume, is for like wing nuts and things like that, but it works great for these. So I drill the pilot hole in, and then I just twist it a little bit, and then this just is like a ratchet, and it just grabs a hold of that and screws it in for me, and I don't have to kill my thumbs. So very handy. There we are. So much easier. The first time I used it, it was just like such a revelation. Okay, that's awesome. Then I'm going to decide about what length of wire I want. So I need enough to thread it through, fold it over, and twist it a bit. But I don't want so much that this, when I hang it, is going to show up above the plaque. All right, so here are my pliers with my little side cutter in there as well. Get that down into there. I think that was good. There we are. Good. So pop that through there. Just give it one little bend over while I get this one sorted. And this one, again, I want it fairly snug because I don't want that up above the top of the plaque. So when I do that, I squeeze it together there and just twist it around. Okay. Just be careful when you do, if you do this with the side cutters, you will get little pokey bits of the wire sticking up. And guess what? It really hurts when you stick those in your fingers. So be careful of that. So once I do that, then I use just the end part of the pliers just to squeeze that together, sort of crimp it. I'm sorry, if anybody who is watching this is very mechanically inclined, you are probably just dying listening to me use improper terms for this, but I apologize. There we go. And it's ready to hang. There's our hanger on the back. And ta-da, there we go. Now, in the light here in the store, reflecting on the video, this looks more blue than it is. It's actually a really nice teal. There's a lot of green in it. It is hung, it's beautiful. The sides are finished nicely, so it's gonna look good from whatever angle you see it at. This is a fantastic coat hook. It's very sturdy, so you can use it for your coats, leash, shopping bag, purse, whatever you need. All right, so I have some smaller ones here in the store as well that I've done over the last month or so. There's this really cute brass bee on a navy blue plaque. Very nice. And then there's this one that's more vintage looking. It's got a pink inlay on it with a white hook. Okay, so those smaller ones are $30. I have this double one here with the fairy door. Just love the rich green and the glossy black on that. That one's $45. And then this one that we just made is $40. Come on down to the store and have a look at them.